Yeah.
How many do we have, attendees? Then we start. Because right now we have 3.
We start at 3:05. It's 3:02.
Yeah. Because we have just Anisha, Anjali, and 3 students. Lavina, you are also in office?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I'll just blur the background.
Trying to join but not able to join. So next. इधर बीच में क्लिक करो. You should be able to join. फिर सर को बोलो कि सर को वेबएक्स से ही एक मिल गया होगा. That also we can try. ऊपर नीचे स्क्रॉल करते. ये वापस सर को भेज दो. ये पहले देखते थे सर को ऐड करके से बोला. उनसे एडिट करते हैं. नहीं है. एक्चुअली इवेंट चल रहा है. एक बार सेंड ईमेल्स करो और पैनलिस्ट से पैनलिस्ट और सेंड कर दो. सर है ना. सर को ऐड तो क्या है. अच्छा डीन ऐसे को भेजा. वो एक बार चेक करो. वो सर टापिंग मतलब सर अपने पर्सनल डीन ऐसे को भेजा. I'm able to join us certainly. तो सर को कैसे कर लेगा ज्वाइन. बस ज्वाइन ही कर दो सर. सर प्लीज ज्वाइन. चेंज. हाँ. सर का नाम हाँ ये ना इसको सेलेक्ट करो. हाँ इन एक पैनलिस्ट राइट. नहीं सिलेक्ट नहीं है. सेलेक्ट करो. हो गया.
Hi everybody. Good afternoon.
Hello,
Good
sir.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good. How are you?
Slowly recovering. It's taking a long process.
Okay.
Slowly healing.
Okay. Healing always happens slow. The
Yeah,
injury comes much faster, but the healing is always slow.
Yes.
So,
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon,
Ah,
Ma'am, we start.
yeah, we can start.
So,
So we start? Should I?
yes.
Okay. So, good afternoon, all. On behalf of the core counseling team, I welcome all of you, dear students, and Professor Kundu, our Dean Student Affairs, to this event. Before I request Professor Kundu to address all of us, I wish to congratulate the entire team of core counselors who have initiated this series of events to reach out to you, dear students. 10th of October is marked as the World Mental Health Day, a day which is very special and very dear to all the mental health professionals. And to celebrate this, we decided to celebrate the entire week from today, that is the 3rd of October, till the 9th of October. So do join us starting today for the entire week. The theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is Mental Health in an Unequal World. It is so aptly said, it is an unequal world. All of us are going through hard times during this pandemic period. It is a difficult phase for all of us. And this is an attempt from the core counselors of SWC at IITB to reach out to you, dear students, to address some of the growing concerns during this pandemic. I would suggest do look up the upcoming events for the 5th. Of course, today is 3rd, then the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th. All the 4 events are designed especially to equip you better to deal in these difficult times. I thank you all for coming to this event and stay connected with us for the entire week. With this, I request Professor Kundu to say a few words to the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Amita ji, and good afternoon to everybody, the core counseling team, as well as all the students who are attending this one. First of all, I want to congratulate the entire team for arranging this particular series, which is very relevant at this point of time. All of us are going through stress, all of going through mental pressure, and how to release this one. It will be good to hear from you and then do some kind of practice and then take care of ourselves at this point of time. Only from the professionals, if we learn how to deal with this one, that is the best way to do it. So again, I congratulate all the entire team, and especially for today, Aditi ji, for taking the initiative to deliver the talks to us. I hope all of you will get benefited out of it. And the effort that the core counseling team is doing, I really appreciate it. And I am sure that in future, our students will get benefited from your expertise, from your lecture, from your nourishing to the students, and then taking care of the students at difficult point of time. So without too much of ado, I think that I will request to go ahead, and I thank all of you for taking this initiative again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming and addressing us. It's very motivating.
I am always get motivated by you people.
So, I request Shaukat to take the event forward.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good afternoon, everyone. Most of you know our presenter, Miss Aditi Vaze. She's a clinical psychologist and she's a consulting psychometrician with Student Wellness Center, IIT Bombay since long time. She has completed her master's in clinical psychology from Mumbai University, and she has been working since as a clinical psychologist. She has extensive experience of working with hospitals, private sectors, corporates, and schools. Along with conducting psychological assessment, she offers master classes in specific areas of psychology. She is known for her eclectic approach in her counseling that draws her unique skills in psychological assessment. Ms. Aditi Vaze, over to you.
Thank you so much for this kind introduction, Shoka.
I'm very excited to be, a part of this, of the Student Welfare Center, as well as, a Vartalaap, and to kind of speak about my topic for today, which is, upside of stress. Can I please request the PPT to be shared on screen? So I made a small PPT to kind of, guide us or take us through the way that I plan to conduct the session. It's going to be for about 30 minutes. And let's do this. I would really, really like if you guys participated. There are certain questions I want to ask you. And, I think when we participate, when we share our points of views, we learn so much from each other. So I would really, really request you guys to please, put in the chat box. Shaukat is here. Shaukat, if there are any comments, please do, tell me what's happening.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
start with
definitely.
the topic upside of stress, okay? And it's quite a paradox actually, because stress is considered to be bad. If I were to say is stress good or bad, most people will say it's not. Stress is something that is completely to be avoided. And yet we are saying that, there is an upside to stress. And the reason we actually thought of this topic was actually had roots in the first Vartalaap series that we had, which was with Dr. Barve. Moving on. So some of the points that were addressed in Dr. Barve's talk, okay, and one has to keep in mind that over the last 18 months, next slide please, over the last 18 months, our lives have completely changed. I mean, this pandemic has completely blown the wind out of all of our sails. We just did not know what was happening. There was so much of uncertainty. Mental health challenges were on the rise. The world had turned upside down. Life as we knew it either had come to a grinding halt or had completely kind of turned on its head. So we were all basically grappling with all of that. And in all of these things, Dr. Barve's talk was so enlightening, and he spoke about certain challenges that students in IIT faced because, he's associated here. And he said that one of the most important things about how IIT students react to stress or how they think about stress are three P's. The first one is that it's a permanent event, that many of the students thought, or most of the students thought, that whatever is happening in my life now, whatever is giving me stress is a permanent event. It is not, it is just going to remain in perpetuity. Second is it's pervasive. That this stress is not just related to for example, my health or my work or my relationship or time management or whatever it is. Now this has kind of pervaded all across my entire life. And the third is that it is personalized. What this means is that this stress is only happening to them. Students would feel that this is only happening to them and it has never happened to anyone else. And this can be quite an isolating feeling, isn't it? If you feel that you're going through something that nobody else understands and nobody has actually gone through. So from this, we've actually decided that perhaps we should have a talk where we look at stress differently. What are some of the stressors that students in IIT face? Okay. Academics, this is like the most obvious one. It is an extremely competitive environment. And now, of course, with online learning and, learning remotely and all of that, things have only become more challenging. Some other stresses about self-care, looking after their sleep patterns, their routine, their exercise, their eating, all of that. Scheduling or time management as students, who are basically grappling with so many different things to do. There are relationships, and these relationships need not just be romantic. These are relationships with family members. These are relationships with their peers. Okay. A lot of the time, students face self-created pressure as well. Should I be doing more with my time? Am I doing enough? These are some of the stressors that, our counselors said that the students face. Moving on. What is stress? What is stress? And the way that we've decided to do this talk today is to kind of take you through what stress is, what stress management techniques are, and how can we actually look at this entire thing differently to give you a completely different point of view about it. What is stress? And please do put in the chat box whenever I ask you questions. What do you think stress is? Is it tantana? Is it like tension? Is it anxiety? Is it nervousness? Please put in the chat box. Shaukat, in case there is some, will you please let me know in case somebody has put any sort of comment in the chat box?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So stress is basically the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. Okay. In fact, Hans Selye, who's like literally like the great, great father of stress, who is the one who actually came up with the stress response, the alarm resistance, burnout sort of exhaustion and burnout response. He said stress is defined as any type of changes that causes physical, emotional, psychological strain. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention. What is a stressor? Stressor is anything in the outside world that knocks you off your homeostasis balance. Okay, this is getting a little bit more technical. What homeostasis means in a nutshell is balance or equilibrium. Our bodies are essentially wired to have equilibrium or wired to be in a balance. All the physiological functions are wired to be in a balance. So that is the body's preferred state. State. Stress is basically something that is known as the fight or flight response. Okay, when we see a stressor, our body immediately gears up, our autonomic nervous system is in play, our sympathetic nervous system jacks up our heart rate, BP, okay, basically dilates our pupils and readies us to fight, okay, or flee the situation. So this is what is primitively been the kind of response to stress. And a stressor is anything that causes stress. Interestingly, stressors can be of two types. Stressors can be positive, eustress, or negative, which is distress. A positive stressor is any event which is essentially happy, but which also causes stress. Can anyone give me an example of like a positive stressor? And of course, negative stressor are, events that are essentially negative that cause us a lot of stress and distress. Okay, like for example, health issues, financial issues, overwork, overloading. Can anyone tell me anything about a positive stressor? What is a positive stressor? Okay, let me give you an example. Say a promotion is a positive stressor because it's something that I want, it's something that is good, but it is still causing me stress. Or moving houses, to a bigger, better locality, or getting that dream job, or even getting that dream internship. All of these are positive stresses. Eustress helps to actually garner our resources and makes us stronger. Distress is usually believed to kind of like drain all our resources. There is a very, very interesting thing about stress response. And what is a stress response? Basically, any way your body responds so that your body should go back to homeostasis, okay, or deal with the stress. And here is where we kind of came across something which is so amazing that this is something that we thought is necessary to share. The stress response can be mobilized not only in response to actual triggers, but even thinking about them or even in the expectation of them. This means that my stress response cannot be, stress response system is activated not only by physical stressors or what is actually happening, but also but just even thinking about it. Say, for example, I'm sitting here and thinking, oh my God, physical school is going to start soon. What is going to happen? So even thinking about something can cause stress. So why not use or harness this amazing energy of thought to actually make us better at handling stress? Moving on. What are some of the symptoms that we get of stress? I'm just going to move through this very rapidly because we know about this already. Okay, there are physical symptoms, that is the heart rate and the BP. This is all the sympathetic nervous system gearing us to fight what's going on inside. Possibly overthinking, anxiety, very, very negative thoughts that are indicate that you're overwhelmed. Okay. Emotional dysregulation. Dysregulation means when things are not in control. I'm either having mood swings or I'm excessively anxious or excessively depressed. Burnout, which comes after the stage of exhaustion, which means that my body just cannot take it anymore. I have shut down. Serious problems, which are mental health issues, depression, addictions, and of course, chronic stress. And we keep hearing about this all the time about how chronic stress is actually killing. Okay, it causes cardiovascular illness, it can cause obesity, effects on reproductive health, effects on memory, sleep irregularities, and the works. Okay, in fact, what I've written below in caption are some of the captions that are associated with stress. So when you read, it's just about stress is contagious, secondhand stress is killing you, how this is bad, how this is awful, all of that is absolutely true. There is one thing to remember, and this is really, really important. Just as we need to remember that thinking about something can cause stress, Second thing to remember is that fear does not inspire behavioral change. In fact, fear only motivates a desire to escape feeling bad. Say, for example, all those cigarette packets that have like, photographs of cancer patients, they actually did a study saying, hey, is this really something that is, kind of preventing people from smoking? Looking at pictures of people dying of lung cancer. And this actually shows that what it only does is makes people reach out to grab the cigarette pack, okay, in a way. What is the better way of me dealing with my stress is to do the very same thing that helps to calm me down. So it's like saying that if I constantly get shamed or if I constantly have
I think there is a network issue. Hope it will get resumed soon. Yes, Aditi, you were like out of network for some time.
I think she can turn off the video to increase the
Okay.
bandwidth.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. I also have my mobile hotspot on so I can put it on. Yeah, thank
So
you.
now it is fine.
Is it fine now? Should I go on my
Yes.
mobile hotspot? I'm sorry.
Now you are audible.
Okay, should I turn on my mobile hotspot or this is fine? Just let me know again. Sorry. All
Right
right, so
now, okay.
So actually there is a bandwidth issue. I think the turn of the video may improve the situation.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Aditi, I think
Yes.
you can turn on the videos. Yeah.
Yes, better? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So what I was trying to say is that I don't know where you guys lost me, but what I was trying to say is that fear does not motivate or inspire behavior change. It just motivates us to escape the source of feeling bad, which means that if I'm constantly shamed for being overweight or unhealthy or eating too much, when I'm stressed out, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. What are some of the most commonly used stress management techniques? Moving on. Of course, the number one, commonly used stress management technique is physical exercise. Movement, this is wonderful. Okay, this is great because this releases all sorts of happy hormones and endorphins. Monitoring our sleep schedule, eating well really, really helps. Looking after our nutrition, the way that we rest. Okay, learning calming techniques like pranayama, meditation, anything that activates the parasympathetic nervous system is excellent. Practicing mindfulness, writing your stressors down, writing a reflection journal, organizing, making time for hobbies, taking a break, etc., etc. All of these are extremely wonderful ways to cope with stress. So then what are we going to do today in this? There can be something else that will help us with managing, or rather an invention that cannot cope, but even get
Aditi,
better
your
at.
voice is breaking.
Okay, 1 second. Let me see. I'll just, yeah. Is this better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm just joining. Shaukat, is this better?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
I
all
think
right.
you can
Okay.
continue.
Yeah, so moving on, changing the slide, please. coming back to, is there research also showing something else? Can there something else or some intervention that can help us not just to cope with stress, but get better? And this is such an ironic thing to say, right? Not just cope, but get better and make us
Not also by any picture.
Aditi, you are not audible.
Can you hear me, Shaukat?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, the next slide, please. So this talk is heavily based on this book, Upside of Stress by Kelly McGonigal, who is actually a health psychologist who is in Stanford University. She's a lecturer there. She's known for her work in the field of science health, which focuses on translating insights from psychology and neuroscience into practical strategies that support health and well-being. In 2013, she gave this really wonderful TED talk, and this photograph is from there, where she emphasized the importance of an individual's subjective belief in themselves as something which is helping them to cope successfully, as being a crucial factor in their response to stress. So basically, belief in oneself is very, very important and a crucial factor in response to stress. And this photograph is from there. I just wanted to tell you that this book is not just based on her opinion, but it is based on hundreds and thousands of studies, insights of thousands of scientists, and it's using cutting edge research. Moving on. There's a very interesting thing that she spoke about stress. And she said that stress is what arises when something you care about is at stake, which means that stress and meaning are inextricably linked. You don't stress out about something you do not care about. And you cannot create meaningful life without some stress. I think we should take a few seconds here to absorb what this says. Stress is what arises when something you care about is at stake. Say, for example, if my health is at stake, then I will be stressed out if I'm not doing well. If the fact that, my relationships are at stake, and if that is something which is bothering me, this means that my relationships give me meaning. If my academics are stressing me out, this means that this is something that is giving me meaning, and which conversely means that any meaningful life has to come with some stress. So how you think about something can transform its effect on you. By changing what we think about an experience can literally change what is happening in our bodies. There's a wonderful experiment, or actually a correlational study that was done in 1998, where 30,000 adults in the US were asked two questions. First is, did they experience stress in the last year? And second is, do they believe that stress is harmful to health? After 8 years, many of them were followed, actually all of them were followed up to know how many of them had died. Of course, the results were not really surprising, in the sense that 43% of people who said that they experienced high stress had passed on. However, there was a very, very interesting sub-research to this, or sub-line to the research, which says that not only people who said that high levels of stress had passed on, but those who believed that it was harmful. That was the population. So not just people who had high stress, but who also believed that stress was harmful. Those were the ones who actually were the ones who had fatalities. People with high stress who believe that it was not harmful did not actually die of their stress. So it shows that this is not a vice versa. What this means is that this is not just stress, but a combination of stress and belief that stress is harmful. And this is where this whole kind of book gets its genesis from. Moving on. I'm going to read out a few sentences and please tell me which of the mindsets that you agree with. Experiencing stress depletes my health and vitality. Experiencing stress debilitates my performance and productivity. Experiencing stress inhibits my learning and growth. The effects of stress are negative and should be avoided. Moving on, the second mindset. Experiencing stress enhances my performance and productivity. Experiencing stress improves my health and vitality. Experiencing stress facilitates my learning and growth. And effects of stress are positive and should be utilized. I want to throw this question open to the audience. Tell me honestly, do you believe more, or do statements from mindset 1 resonate more with you, or mindset 2 resonate more with you? Can you please quickly, or just like, say it verbally, or can you please quickly put in the chat box? What do you think? What resonates with you more? Is it 1 or is it 2? Is it 1, which is saying that stress is harmful, or 2, which is saying that stress actually is enhancing? Can you put in the chat box if anyone kind of has 1? Okay, Pragya, thank you. All right, okay. All right, so let's assume that most of us at some point in time thought that it was 1. Moving on. What is the behavior of people with first mindset? Okay, what is the behavior of people who have the first mindset? First one is avoidance. They avoid or run away from stress. And while I'm saying this, please try and kind of see if there's something that you can relate to when it comes to what I'm saying. They try to distract themselves from the cause of the stress instead of dealing with it. They focus on getting rid of their feelings of stress instead of taking steps to address its source. So Pragya, whatever it is that you're thinking right now, okay, mostly 1, very rarely 2, all right. Perhaps we can, by the end of the chat, help to see if we can shift a little bit, okay. People who have the mindset 1, which is stress is harmful, focus on getting rid of their feelings of stress rather than taking steps to address its source. Maybe it's a cause, maybe it's a relationship that you're struggling with, okay? So what it says is that if I am struggling in a course or I'm struggling in a relationship, if I have my first mindset, I will run away from it rather than actually sitting and trying to come to the core of what is actually bothering me. Displacement, which is turning to alcohol or other substances or addictions to escape the stress and withdraw their energy and attention from whatever relationship, role, or goal is causing the stress. So what is the behavior of people with the second mindset? Acceptance, accepting the fact that the stressful event has occurred and is real, planning a strategy for dealing with sources of stress, seeking information, help, or advice, taking steps to overcome, remove, or changing the source of the stress, trying to make the best of the situation by viewing it in a more positive way or by using it as an opportunity to grow. So please understand the basic difference between the first mindset and the second mindset is in the first mindset, people embrace it, okay? They look at their stress head on, they do whatever it takes, and do not misunderstand this by saying that it's just changing the way you look at it. It's not only changing the way you look at it, you're also planning strategies, you're also seeking, proactive behavior, you're also reframing the situation. Whereas somebody with the first mindset is avoiding the stress or wanting to basically run away from the stress at all costs. Moving on. This is another thing that relates wonderfully to this, which is mindset change or mindset intervention. A lot of research is going on in this now about how mindset change can actually help us to get better at stress. So what is mindset? Mindset is a belief that biases how you think, feel, and act. It's basically a filter that you see everything through. Okay. Of course, not every belief, is a mindset. If I believe very strongly that, one flavor of ice cream is better than the other, that's definitely not going to become a mindset. But mindsets are core beliefs that reflect my philosophy of life. Say, for example, my mindset about, can people really, really change? Or is the world getting less safe or more safe? Or perhaps my mindset about money. Mindsets shape our reality, including objective physical interactions, reactions, and even long-term health benefits. So to give you an example, say I genuinely believe that people can change. And I have a friend who makes a mistake. If he or she makes a mistake, I am likely to be more tolerant. I'm likely to be more patient. I'm likely to be more kind and helpful because I believe that this is a mistake and that she is capable of changing. On the other hand, if my mindset is that no, people do not change, come what may, people do not change, then my whatever mistake or whatever failing that my friend has, I'm going to look at it as more intolerant. I'm going to look at it with a lens that she just cannot help herself. Mindset intervention, therefore, the power of mindset intervention and power of values and how they transform the way we think about our stressful experience and our ability to cope with them. What does this mean? When people are connected through their values or your mindsets, you can really believe that we can improve our situation through effort and the support of others. This is really important to understand. So if I believe that yes, stress is something that can help me or can enhance myself, I am more likely to take positive action and less likely to view the adversity that we are going through, okay, as we're less likely to view it in a bad manner and less likely to think that this means something bad about myself. Let me give you an example. If we are struggling as a student, okay, if you're struggling right now and you're feeling, oh my God, the stress of being a student is just too much, the academic pressure is too much. If my mindset is that, yes, I value knowledge, I value hard work, I value the need to be a student, whatever comes as a part of being a student in an academically rigorous institute, I will look at a par for the course, or I will look at more positively, and I will actually try and embrace it rather than running away from it. We see ourselves as strong and able to grow from adversity. And you become more likely to approach challenges rather than avoid them. We are better able to see the meaning in difficult situations. Let me give you another example here. A friend of mine really wanted to become a mother, and she had a child, and she was and you know what comes with having a child is sleep deprivation, and she was completely exhausted by not sleeping. But when she looked, so there were two choices. One, she could look at this situation and say, oh my God, this is so awful. I don't get to sleep at all. My health is suffering. I don't feel this, I don't feel good. I don't feel motivated. Or to look at this and say, I wanted to become a mother. This is my value that I will, give the best to my child. And this is par for the course. This is exactly what is expected when I become a parent or a new mother. And this is something that will pass or I can cope with. So let's do this. Moving on, let's see what my relationship to stress is. I really want to ask you, what is your relationship to stress? Do you honestly feel that, stress is do you have a love-hate relationship with stress? Are you struggling with it? Is the past stress putting too much effect on your present stress? Do you feel it's an enemy and there is absolutely nothing to be learned from this and everything is actually just horrible and black? What is our relationship to stress? If you want to put it in the chat box, or perhaps you may not even want to share it. I just would like you to actually have an understanding of what is our relationship to stress? How do I view my own stress? Moving on. What is the cost of avoiding that stress. Suppose I feel that, a course I'm doing or a relationship or this internship that I'm doing is just too much. I feel unable to cope with it. I want to run away from it. What is the cost? Am I missing any opportunities? What events, experiences, or activities or opportunities have we turned down because we thought that they would be too stressful? And by turning them down, has our life been enhanced or has my life been narrowed? I really, really urge you guys to look at whatever is happening in your life, perhaps what has happened in your life, and ask yourself these questions. Am I, by avoiding stress, am I indulging in avoidant coping? What activities, substances, or other escapes do we turn to when we want to get, avoid or numb or, run away from stress? Are any of these coping strategies self-destructive? Procrastination is one very important avoidance strategy that we all use when stress becomes too much. Is this a good use of our energy or life? And by running away from stress, are we limiting our future? Is there anything we would like to do, experience, accept, or change only if we were not too afraid of the stress it might bring to our life? Have we turned down stuff because it has brought too much stress? And would our life be actually enhanced by pursuing these activities? Moving on. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Shaukat, are you guys able to hear me?
Aditi, yeah, in between your voice was breaking. Till now it was fine. But
Okay, sorry.
now it started breaking.
Okay, perfect. So till now, what I have done is I have introduced you to a new point of view. I have introduced you to a point of view which says A, thinking about something can actually alter my course of action towards that thought. There is something called mindset intervention when I can actually change the way I perceive a particular situation, or there is something where I can look at stress as enhancing. So what are the actual techniques I can use? First is, what brings meaning to our life? And this is where I would actually like to take a few minutes of your time. Take a few minutes of, like right now, to list the most meaningful roles, relationships, activities, or goals in your life. In what parts of life are you most likely to experience joy, love, laughter, learning, or a sense of purpose? Right now, where you are, you don't even have to share it with me. Just think about it as we go along. What is it? Is it being a student? Is it being a daughter? Is it being a counselor? Is it being a part of some sort of club? Is it being like a teacher? What is it? And after we have listed it, ask yourself, would you describe any of them as sometimes or frequently stressful? Does the meaningful role or relationship or activity that you're thinking about, is it stressful? And if you have thought about this, you would realize that yes, it is in fact sometimes or frequently stressful. Getting rid of stress is not a realistic possibility. There are so many students who come, or so many people who seek counseling saying, I don't want to feel stressed out at all. But this is not a realistic possibility. We do not get to choose between a stress-free or a stressful experience, whether it is work, family, or in pursuit of goals. If there is something in our lives that is both meaningful and causing us a great deal of stress, we need to ask ourselves why this role, relationship, or activity or goal is so important. Say, for example, for me, perhaps being a counselor is something which is very, very meaningful. But it brings with us a lot of ups and downs as well. There are times when, and I'm sure that many counselors can resonate with this. Even as students, you can resonate with this. So many times we feel crushing lows. We feel overwhelmed. Okay, we feel, oh my God, I'm not able to balance things. But you also realize that this is something that gives us the most meaning. And another important thing to ask ourselves is, what would you do if you suddenly lost this source of meaning? Would you want it back? That is really, really another way to look at stress, as thinking that a meaningful life is a stressful life, or only things that give us meaning actually stress us out. Moving on. Turning nerves into excitement. What does this mean? You know, we spoke about the flight or fight response. We spoke about how we are actually, amped up, or, like our heart is beating fast. We are hyperventilating. Say, for example, I have to go and like just before this talk, okay, when I had to actually speak in front of people, or, in front, like, anxious before an event, a big meeting, a speech, a competition, or an exam. Okay. Remember that there is a fine line between anxiety and excitement. Choosing to view the anxiety as excitement, energy, or motivation can help us to perform to your full potential. What this means simply is that by telling yourself, my heart is pounding because my heart is in the activity, it means something to me. And because my body is getting ready to rise to the challenge, it is like all my resources are being marshaled to meet this challenge. When you take a leap and you want to do well, don't force yourself to relax. They did a wonderful experiment here where they were talking to people who were just about to go for an interview. Can you hear me, Shoka? Sorry, can I get some sort of feedback? I'm not sure if people can hear. Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
we are hearing.
Yeah, so they did a great experiment where people were just about to go and go for an interview. With one group of people, they said that, you know what, just try and calm down. Just try and calm down. It doesn't matter. Ignore the stress. Doesn't matter because it's going to just hamper you. And for the other group, they said, you know what, this is actually good because this means that your body is trying to prepare you, okay, to do well. Your body is actually trying to help you to do better, to marshal your resources. So instead, embrace the nerves and tell yourself, this is meaningful for me. And they actually found that people who embraced their excitement, okay, people who went with it, people who were amped up, okay, were the ones who did better, significantly better. They say 33% better than the people who were told, oh, this is bad, don't think about it, don't ignore it, just try and calm down. You know, the same example, right? Suppose we are participating in a sporting event. Just before that event, we're biologically experiencing exactly the same thing. We are all amped up, we're feeling all excited, but that actually funnels us to do better. However, when we are in a situation where we feel uncomfortable, we feel that is stress, and that is actually pushing us back. So turning nerves into excitement, telling yourself that this is actually helping us to do better at the task in hand is the second technique. Perhaps right now, as I'm, speaking to you, you may think that, oh, these just seem like urban legends and these are not true. But all of this is actually backed by data. And because of the paucity of time, I'm not actually getting into all the experiments and the research that has been done with this. Moving on. The third technique is to turn threat into a challenge. And this is something that, it's very important for us to understand. What is the difference between a threat and a challenge? Because we said that, physiologically our body responds the same. However, there is an important difference between the immediate performance and the long-term consequence. If you look at a stressor as a threat versus as a challenge. And the biggest difference is that in a threat response, the body is anticipating the physical harm. So to minimize the blood loss, because our body is like in the primitive mode where we're actually, our body is gearing up to fight or flight. Okay, the blood vessels constrict, the body also ramps up inflammation and mobilizes immune cells to prepare you to heal quickly. Whereas in a challenge response, it's more like doing exercise. Because you are not anticipating physical harm, the body feels safe, maximizing the blood flow to give as much energy as possible. Your heart has a stronger beat and gives more energy. So this is really, really important, is that it's important for us to turn the threat into a challenge. So how do we do that? First is to realize that if we view something as a threat, it has a different consequence than viewing something as a challenge. Suppose the next time, bring to your mind a recent experience that you think is stressful. Maybe it's an argument, maybe it's a health scare, maybe it's a problem. take a moment to consider which aspects of the stress response were present. Did your body try to give you more energy? How did you know this? Did you feel the sensations in your body? So basically, mindfulness or understanding what is going on in your mind is important. Did you seek out social support or contact? What did the impulse to connect feel like? A lot of the times, because we are stressed out, we feel the need to connect with others. When we are stressed out, we want to be near friends or family. You notice yourself paying more attention to others or more sensitive to others' emotions. You feel a desire to protect, support, or defend the people, organizations, or values you care about. And we learn and grow. What does this mean? Even though our body is still calming down, okay, after a threatening or a stressful sort of event, you replay or analyze the experience in your mind. And you realize that a mix of emotions is usually present. However, this is helping our brain to grow. This is helping our brain to make sense of what has happened. So when this event has happened, did you replay the incident in your mind after it was over? Did you talk to somebody? What emotions were present? Or perhaps take a few minutes to write down or describe in writing what you feel. So this is actually another way to kind of deal with the stressor, is that try and perceive it as a threat and not as a challenge. Moving on. Some really, really wonderful research has come out of this, which says that caring creates resilience. Again, I'm going to read out a couple of statements and I want you to tell me which of these you resonate with. Do we have a mindset of isolation when we are stressed, or do we have a community humanist mindset? When I am feeling down, I tend to feel like most other people are probably happier than I am. When I am really struggling, I tend to feel like other people must be having an easier time of it. When I'm down, I remind myself that there are lots of other people in the world feeling like I am. And when the things are going badly for me, I see difficulties as a part of life that everyone gets through. Quickly in the chat box, can you tell me which of these statements do you resonate with? When you are stressed out or down, do you feel that, hey, perhaps other people are going through what I have gone through, or other people are actually, probably having it worse? Or do you feel isolated? Or do you feel that, there is something that nobody can understand? And this is related to what we said came from Dr. Barve's speech. Moving on, one of the important things that stress brings about, or biological reactions, is something called a tend and befriend response. That means stress increases the level of oxytocin, which activates our pro-social tendencies. Simply speaking, it makes us more social. It makes us have more empathy, connection, trust, as well as stronger desires to bond or be close to others. It activates the reward system, which releases the neurotransmitter dopamine, which means that we feel optimistic about our ability to do something meaningful. The attunement system, which is driven by serotonin, which means it enhances our perception, intuition, and self-control. It makes it easier to understand what is needed, okay? And helps to ensure that our actions have a big positive impact. In short, what this means is, and this is something we have seen, when the pandemic was at its height, when the second wave was at its height, what are the stories that came out? The stories that came out were of people helping each other. When we heard stories about oxygen cylinders kind of running, when there was a scarcity of oxygen cylinders, we actually had people marshalling all their resources and getting together and helping each other. Which brings us to the last technique, which is something which is bigger than yourself. And this is not the last technique that is given in the book, but this is the last technique that we're going to be discussing in our talk. Moving on. It's very, very important to see yourself as part of something bigger. It's important to turn overwhelm into helpful. What it means is being a part of a team, an organization, a community, or mission. It takes the toxicity out of striving. When your primary goal is to contribute to this something bigger, you will work just as hard, but the motivation driving you is different. What this actually means is that if you want to transform stress, then be aligned to something that is bigger than yourself. The previous point said when you want to transform stress, then help each other. It kind of brings out pro-social tendencies, talk to each other. Okay. Difficult circumstances give rise to great acts of kindness because suffering provokes a basic need to help others. When we are feeling overwhelmed, we look for a way to do something for someone else that goes beyond our daily responsibilities. So actually, as students, perhaps helping somebody else who's not coping so well, even if you feel that you are already stressed out. What this means is your brain might tell you that you do not have the time or energy, but that is exactly why you should do it. These are some of the ways in which we can actually transform stress. So what are some of the takeaways from today's talk about how we can actually have a mindset intervention about stress? Moving on. First is, next slide, please. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Aditi, you are audible. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Replace. So the first thing is to please replace stress is bad for me with stress can be good for me. Focus on the goals and opportunities brought on by the stress rather than only the negative effects. Do not ignore your stress. Rather take a fresh look at it. Reframe it. Optimize. What this means is when the goal is how can I use this stress to perform optimally? Like for example, some athletes before a big game, right, use up-regulatory strategies like pep talks and motivating music, whereas other people will use down-regulatory techniques such as diaphragmatic breathing. But in both the cases, the outcome is to optimize their physical response and not to suppress it. And don't run away or avoid stress. Rather, approach and say to yourself often, I have what it takes to manage this. There are some other techniques given in the book as well, which means turn self-focus into bigger than self goals. They've spoken about post-traumatic growth, something that even Dr. Barve spoke about last time, or even telling our own story of growth and resilience to other people. Sharing this really, really helps to transform stress. Again, as I said, this entire book or this mindset intervention is based on research. It is based on data. This is not just opinion. This is backed by science. This is backed by biochemistry, which is something which is very, very aligned to, psychology. So all these approaches are not something that somebody has just made up or thought of. These mindsets and mindset interventions is getting a huge impetus now. There's just a few things that I would like to discuss before we end this talk. Moving on. What are some of the red flags to take professional help? And this is really, really important to realize. Is if you are having difficulty in regulating your emotions, if you feel that I'm completely dysregulated, if you aren't performing as effectively as work at all over a prolonged period of time, if you have experienced trauma, you no longer enjoy activities you typically did, you are grieving, your physical health has taken a hit, or you want to improve yourself but do not know where to start. In any of this, it is very, very essential to take professional help. And as you remember, if you are looking at your first mindset, where you are saying that stress can be enhancing, taking professional help only aligns with this. You're not running away from it. You are saying, hey, what are the strategies that I need to use to be able to look at this better? Moving on. So after this, I hope that I have at least been able to introduce you to another point of view of looking at stress. Instead of saying stress is harmful and should be avoided, reduced, and managed at all cost, also look at stress is helpful, should be accepted, utilized, and embraced. And I want to tell you this again. This is not something that glorifies, because this is a lot of times that this has kind of come up in this book. This is not something that glorifies trauma. This is not something that glorifies very, very difficult events. And this research is not only on people who have experienced very, very low levels of stress. This research is done on people who have really, really gone through awful things in their life, which includes, natural disasters, which includes being abused, which includes, health problems, okay? And the results remain consistent in all of this. So I hope that with this, that we have been able to kind of introduce you to another way of looking at stress, which says that stress actually can even be adaptive or enhanced. All you have to do is embrace it and learn the techniques of doing it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Aditi. It was a wonderful session, and you helped us to see stress from a different view. I hope all of you have enjoyed this session on something we all are going through in our everyday life, that is stress. Ms. Aditi started with a good introduction about stress, including its definitions and various other aspects. It was insightful to be aware that we have different mindsets towards stress, and these mindsets influence our response to stressful situations. She provided a good understanding of physiological and psychological responses to stress and methods to deal with it. Importantly, all of you have understood when you should take professional help when things start overwhelming. Thank you. Levina, over to you. You can handle the Q&A session.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Shaukat. So we open the platform right now for question and answers to our speaker. And we have all the students to send in their questions in the chat box. We'll take a few minutes for question and answers. Okay, Aditi, we have a question. Can we consult to Miss Aditi at the IIT hospital? If yes, when?
No,
Where Aditi is our psychometrician at the Student Wellness Center. So she will be there in order to help us with psychometrics and not at the IIT hospital. Any other questions? Okay, Aditi, we have a question here. It's from Gaurav. I want to ask, if someone is diagnosed with anxiety and depression by medicine, how long that medicine need to be taken?
Okay, so I would say that it is absolutely at the discretion of the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist who is prescribing the medicines is the best person to speak about how long the medicine should be taken. All I would say is that it is great that, if you are feeling overwhelmed, to take professional opinion. It is wonderful that you are following, the treatment. And I would only urge that these sort of medicines should not be abruptly stopped. They should always be, under the guidance. They should be monitored well under the guidance of a psychiatrist. So again, this depends on whatever the psychiatrist says. So please follow the instructions of the psychiatrist and be in touch.
Thanks, Aditi. Take another few minutes for the questions. Anyone of you who would like to ask any question?
I'd just like to say something
Yes,
as well.
yes.
Generally when something like this comes, when a new point of view is given about things like mindsets, okay, this takes some amount of reflection. Okay, it's not that you look at something and you say, hey, I'm going to, because we have been thinking about certain things so long a certain way. Okay, so even if right now just hearing what science says, okay, or hearing what the new research says and just keeping it in your mind is helpful. Okay, I'm sure that as you reflect more and more, I'm sure that as you think about situations that are stressful in your life more and more, maybe you'll remember some of these things at that particular time. So the idea is to kind of be introduced to a new point of view that, hey, this is what is possible as well. Okay, rather than at this outset decide if this is working or not working for me.
There's another question, Aditi. Does medicine have any negative effects in life?
Okay, this is like, I'm assuming this is psychiatric medication.
Right.
Yeah. So absolutely not, in the sense that there is now, the kind of drugs and molecules available are extremely sophisticated, they're extremely targeted, and, with a good professional, there is no, absolutely, please do not have this mind block saying that I will not take medicines. In fact, even this mindset says, right, if you are accepting that there is stress, then you will do things to, kind of, not run away from it, but embrace it, which means if you have to take medication as a part of getting better, absolutely, please look at it as a crutch. I've also seen that there is a lot of negative stigma or bias associated with psychiatric drugs. So please let that not be. Perhaps previously the whole, impression was that these drugs are just made to make somebody sleep. This is not the way things are. Huge amount of research has gone into this now. But again, as I said, these drugs have to be monitored carefully. You have to be in touch with a psychiatrist. Okay, even if you want to kind of taper the dose off, do not do it yourself. So I would say under the supervision of a psychiatrist who is prescribing the medication, these are absolutely safe.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and please do not self-medicate.
Any more questions? Can have them right now. Last 3 minutes that we can wait for a few questions. Okay, we have a question here. How to harness stress to optimize one's performance if one's stress reaction is neither fight nor flight, but rather freeze? That is, some people tend to lapse into passivity and are unable to move ahead at all. Depends even upon the cultural conditioning also.
Sorry, Lavina, I could not hear properly.
Yeah, okay, I will repeat. How does one harness stress to optimize one's performance if one's stress reaction is neither flight nor fight, but rather a freeze? That is, that some people tend to lapse into passivity and they are unable to move ahead at all.
Okay, so perhaps again, so what this means is acknowledging that this is happening. Okay, so acknowledging that I tend to, or rather, I tend to kind of not react when this happens. Okay, or this is my body. So, first, in any sort of thing, whether it is flight, fight, or freeze, is to acknowledge. Second is what you tell yourself. Okay, that this is happening because my body is kind of preparing. Or rather, I am perceiving whatever stressor is a threat rather than a challenge. So now what I need to do is, if I need to kind of bolster myself into action, I need to perceive the threat as a challenge. Okay, and the example we gave is challenge is like an exercise. Okay, there is no physical harm. We willingly do exercise because that only makes us feel better. Okay, we all like pay money to go to the gym and we are actually challenging our bodies. Okay, and by doing that you realize that you are able to think through your reactions or react in a more optimal manner. Okay, I don't know if I've answered the question, but number one is to kind of acknowledge that this happens and not force it. Okay, and not say, oh, this should not happen, this is bad. So having stress about stressful feelings is not something that should be done. Okay, first is to acknowledge. Second is to tell yourself, this is my body's way of reacting or garnering my resources. Third is automatically telling yourself that now I need to view my, a body sometimes kind of shuts down because you view that the trigger or the stressor is beyond your capacity. So to kind of reframe that works as well. But this, of course, has to come with practice and to constantly keep on telling yourself, okay, that this is the way that I'm going to deal with stress.
Okay, we have another one question that we would take in. Okay, what would be the element of anticipation in defining stress? That is, if the stressor was more overwhelming than expected, or the individual had chosen the stressful event, that is, signing up for tech test or mood eye. What would be the element of anticipation in defining the stress?
Okay, so I would say more than what I gathered from the question is that suppose I have willingly signed up to do something, then that is a stress that I anticipate, versus if I have to give an exam, then that is a stress I'm running away from. Is that what perhaps that is what the question means? Okay, so yeah, so basically what this speaks about is that more than looking at what the stressor is, focus in this particular question, focus on your body's reaction. Okay, focus on what is what is happening to my body. So my heart is thudding because it is just garnering me to do better, or it's giving me energy. Okay, or my blood, whatever, all of that. Okay, rather than looking at the stressor in this particular question. Okay, I don't know if I've actually understood the question properly, but this would be my response to it. Okay, yeah.
You want me to repeat the question?
No. So what I'm trying to say is that the question I understood was that is it something, and the other difference is because you anticipate a particular stress, you have voluntarily signed up for it, you are likely to look at it in a more favorable manner. So you will do whatever it takes to approach it. Whereas the other kind of stress, because you look at it as something that is threatening to me or something that is, I have to do, I don't want to do it, you're going to run away from it. So you're going to look at your body's reactions as more negative. Okay. But again, as I said, let it giving it meaning, like say, I have to give an exam because that is going to bring me closer to my goal of getting to university, or I have to do this presentation because it is a means for me to get that internship. Aligning your meaning and values together will probably help you to turn the way you look at this particular stressor that you feel you voluntarily haven't signed up for.
We have one last question that we're going to take. Can we be sure for at least the fact that medicine will not be forever?
Can we be what?
Can we be for sure that for at least the fact that medicine will not be forever?
Medicine will not be forever.
Forever. Like you're not going to take the medicines forever till the time that you are living.
Okay. So, again, usually it's better to have some specifics to kind of answer these questions about medicines, but generally, the best combination in any sort of mental health recovery is therapy as well as medicines. Okay, so medicines will kind of give you that push, medicines will give you that support that is required, to be able to be in a state in which therapy will help as well. Okay, so if you ask, ideal combination is medicine as well as the therapy together. Therapy kind of helps you to build, or kind of gives you the power to make decisions, or to kind of take charge of your mental health. Again, the duration of medicines entirely depends on the severity of what the person is suffering from. Okay, So again, I would really say that please don't look at medicines as something as the enemy. Just as if somebody has diabetes, you will have to take, or thyroid, and you're saying that, hey, I need to take these medicines for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, till people look at it or view it very favorably. Okay, but the same treatment is not given to psychiatric drugs. It's looked at as a big punishment, whereas it's not. So it is up to the clinician and you to decide the efficacy of the pharmacotherapy. But again, please do this under supervision, and as long as it's required, without the additional sort of stigma saying, oh my God, I'm taking medicine.
Thanks, Aditi. Yes, so as we come to the end of today's session, I would like to thank our Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Kundu, Tagaria ma'am, Ima ma'am, Shaukat, and our speaker for today, Ms. Aditi Vaze, for her effortless and her timeless help in order to prepare for today's session and give us such vital information, which I'm sure is going to be of great help for our students. And nonetheless, I would also like to thank all our students who have joined us for today. And in order to mark this very grand occasion of World Mental Health Day, I would like to thank you each and every one who have participated with your time and have been surely enriched with this wonderful talk and this wonderful information with the information that has been provided by our speaker. Thank you one and all, and wishing you all a very, very happy evening, and thanks to one. Thank you.